The forgotten hour, why you wake up at 3 a.m. It's probably late right now. Maybe you're scrolling. Maybe you woke up an hour ago for no reason, stared at the ceiling, and started worrying that something's wrong with you. It isn't. For most of human history, that midnight waking wasn't a disorder. It was the default. Historians have found hundreds of records describing two separate sleeps, split by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the dark. Then, in about 2 centuries, the entire species forgot this ever happened. By the end of this video, you'll know how one historian uncovered this lost sleep pattern, what people actually did during that mysterious hour awake, and why it vanished so completely that it starts with a historian named Roger Ekirch at Virginia Tech. In the 1990s, he was researching nighttime crime in early modern England when he noticed something odd. Court records, diaries, and medical texts kept mentioning first sleep and second sleep like everyone already knew what that meant. Not as a rare event. As a Tuesday. Ekirch eventually traced references to this two-part sleep across more than 500 sources spanning ancient Rome to 19th century Europe. People went to bed shortly after dusk, woke naturally in the middle of the night, stayed up for an hour or two, then fell back asleep until morning. It wasn't insomnia. It was the schedule. So what were people doing awake in the pitch dark, alone, for an hour, every single night? Quite a lot, actually. Diaries describe this window as unusually intimate and reflective. People prayed. They talked to spouses. They visited neighbors. Some interpreted dreams from their first sleep while the memory was still fresh, decades before Freud made that fashionable. Physicians of the era even considered this waking period medicinally useful, a natural pause for digestion and reflection. It wasn't a problem to fix. It was just the quiet middle of the night, doing what it was supposed to do. So what made an entire civilization abandon a pattern this normal, and then forget it ever existed? The answer isn't biology. It's infrastructure. In the early 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr ran an experiment that accidentally proved this pattern was still buried in us. Wehr placed modern participants in near-total darkness for 14 hours a night, mimicking pre-industrial winter conditions, no clocks, no artificial light. Within weeks, without instruction, their sleep split in two. A few hours of rest. Then an hour or two calmly awake in the dark, then a second sleep until morning. Nobody told them to do this. Their bodies just did it, like an old program had been sitting dormant the whole time, switched off by light, never actually deleted. So what killed it in the real world? Cheap, reliable artificial light. Gas street lighting spread through European cities in the early 1800s. Home lighting followed. And with light came a cultural shift. Nights stopped being private, empty time, and became productive time. Factories didn't care about your circadian rhythm. Neither did an economy that needed one clean block of sleep to fit around one clean block of work. By the early 20th century, references to first and second sleep had all but disappeared from literature, medicine, and everyday language. Not because bodies changed, because the conditions that produced the pattern were switched off, all at once, everywhere. Now, here's the honest twist, because this isn't a closed case. Not every sleep scientist agrees this was universal. Researchers like Jerome Siegel studied modern hunter-gatherer groups, communities in Africa and South America still living without electricity, and found something different, mostly consolidated, single-block sleep, not the two-part pattern Ekirch found in European records. So the real picture is more interesting than humans always slept in two parts. It's this. Biphasic sleep was at least a common, well-documented pattern in pre-industrial Europe, and Wehr's experiment shows the body is capable of reverting to it under the right conditions. Whether it was the universal human default everywhere, or a pattern shaped by specific climates and cultures, is still debated. Here's where this gets personal. If you've ever woken up at 3 a.m. laying there annoyed with yourself, and reached for your phone out of frustration, that's arguably where the real damage happens. Not in the waking itself. Sleep researchers studying insomnia consistently find that anxiety about wakefulness often does more harm than the wakefulness itself. So what if that 3 a.m. moment isn't a malfunction? What if, at least some of the time, it's an old rhythm surfacing, not evidence that your sleep is broken, but a reminder that one unbroken block of sleep is a relatively recent invention, not an ancient law? That refrain doesn't fix modern schedules. Alarms still don't care about ancestral sleep architecture. But it changes what that hour means. Instead of only a symptom, it can be an echo of monasteries at midnight prayer, of candlelit conversations, of a version of night that wasn't empty, just differently used. So the next time you wake at 3 a.m., for no clear reason, you're not necessarily broken. You might just be remembering something your body never fully forgot.